And she came up to me and said, hey, I'm Pooh Shiesty mama. And I had just said some about that boy. And she said, I ain't like what you said. And you know, Ma, I think, I won't say her husband, but Pooh Shiesty daddy represent another faction of Rap-A-Lot, but it's not Rap-A-Lot. When she said that, me and that white boy took off running from her. Yeah, she scared me because she kind of gangster. And I ain't said nothing about it since.
Charleston White just crossed paths with Pooh Shiesty's parents, real Memphis heavyweights. And listen to this, it did not go how he expected. And you won't believe how CW reacted when those certified street veterans checked him face to face over the disrespect toward their son. Behind all that viral yelling and internet trolling, he had been speaking on a young man whose family roots run deep, deeper than most outsiders could ever comprehend in those South Memphis blocks. The truth about what happened when actual street royalty confronted this online personality is crazier than any clip floating around your timeline. And yeah, we've got the proof to back it up. Now, before we dive into this tense showdown, let me keep it real with y'all. Charleston White had been going in on Pooh Shiesty ever since he got locked up, saying prison would humble him and that the system was gonna teach him lessons. He was doing what he always does, wild live streams, bold takes, turning somebody else's downfall into content, until he suddenly found himself standing in front of people who treat family disrespect like a line you do not cross. Now hold up, because this wasn't just another social media spat or some clout-chasing headline. Charleston had no clue he was about to encounter the woman who raised one of Memphis's most authentic street rappers, and the man once known as one of the city's most respected kingpins. These are not the type of parents you see volunteering at school events. These are seasoned street figures whose reputations were carved out over decades of surviving one of the toughest cities in America. But here's where it gets interesting, and honestly, this clash was bound to happen the moment Charleston made Pooh Shiesty's incarceration his talking point. So let's break this down and talk about who Shiesty's mother really is, because trust me, this is not some quiet suburban mom staying out of the way. This woman has her own certified status in those streets, and her background? Girl, it reads like a whole crime series. Pooh Shiesty's mom came up in the same ruthless South Memphis environment that produced names like Yo Gotti and Young Dolph. But unlike women who simply get pulled into a man's operation, she already had her own ties before she ever connected with Mob Boss. She knew the codes, the dangers attached to that life, and most importantly, she understood that showing weakness in that environment could cost you everything. And when she and Mob Boss came together, it wasn't some storybook love tale. It was two battle-tested individuals building something in the middle of chaos. Their union endured federal investigations, rival factions trying to creep into their territory, and the constant reality that tomorrow wasn't promised. What made their partnership different was that they shared a bigger vision for their family. They both saw the streets as a stepping stone, not the final destination. And real talk, when Mob Boss was staring down federal time, she held everything together. She handled the finances, kept key relationships solid within their circle, and protected their name while he fought his case. Operating at that level demanded a kind of street IQ and political finesse most people will never even scratch the surface of. She had to call shots where one decision could mean life or death, green-lighting moves the average person couldn't even imagine facing. The respect she carried in Memphis wasn't gifted, it was earned through years of surviving moments where a single misstep could have wiped out her whole family. She maneuvered through federal probes, rival factions, and betrayal from inside her own circle, all while keeping her household solid and the operation making money. Let's be clear, she wasn't some clueless woman dragged into her man's chaos. She was a strategic force who knew every moving part of that machine. And her impact on Pooh Shiesty? You can't downplay that. While Mob Boss schooled him on the business mechanics of the streets, his mother instilled survival instincts, loyalty codes, and that steel mindset, never fold even when pressure is suffocating you. She also pushed education and legit avenues, making sure Pooh stayed in school despite the fact that she was juggling a criminal enterprise behind the scenes. But hold up, because this is where it goes deeper than street titles and reputations. When Charleston White went public clowning her son and celebrating his incarceration like it was trending content, he had zero clue whose child he was speaking on.
He was mocking the son of a woman who survived storms that would have shattered most people. She had watched federal agents circle her family, seen enemies try to erase her loved ones, and she never once moved in fear. Now here's the real twist. Let's talk about Pooh Shiesty's father, Lantrell Williams Sr., known across Memphis as Mob Boss. This wasn't some social media gangster performing for clicks. Mob Boss had real credentials, and his operation was so layered that federal investigators spent months just trying to map out how far his reach extended. Real talk, Mob Boss wasn't a catchy nickname. It was stamped through years of moving serious product and commanding authorities citywide. His influence stretched from the Mississippi Delta up to the Arkansas border, with I-55 practically functioning like his distribution route. His circle allegedly included truckers moving shipments across state lines, insiders tipping off law enforcement activity, and loyal street operatives ready to risk everything for the brand. But here's what separated Mob Boss from the average corner hustler. He knew the cardinal rule: never get high on your own supply, literally and figuratively. While other crews flexed loud and handled beef with non-stop violence, he moved like an executive, not a crash dummy. He flipped real estate across South Memphis into stash locations and quiet meeting hubs. He built legitimate fronts that accounted for income and gave jobs to people within his circle. Most importantly, he grasped that longevity meant staying under the radar while still generating major revenue. That mindset is exactly why he launched Mob Ties Records, an independent label that justified travel, explained big cash flow, and created a lane for respect that didn't rely on constant bloodshed. But here's where the plot thickens. In 2007, Memphis police had the Mob Boss's operation under surveillance for more than a month. They zeroed in on an apartment at 784 Porter Street that looked abandoned on the outside, but inside it was fully active as a trap house. The spot wasn't random either. Porter Street was a dead end in a low-traffic neighborhood where patrols were scarce and neighbors kept to themselves. Now listen to this. When officers finally executed those search warrants, the scene played out like something straight off a crime drama. Detective Cottrell Robinson hit the door first, and the second they breached it, everything went left. Mob Boss's cousin, Rico Johnson, tried bolting from apartment 4 into apartment 3. Glass shattered as somebody dove out of the kitchen window. And hold up, a 75-pound pit bull came flying around the corner, aiming straight for the officers' throats.
Detective Robinson had to fire 3 shots before the dog backed off into the kitchen and collapsed. That pit bull wasn't just somebody's pet, it was built-in security. In that world, a trained, aggressive dog isn't a decoration. It deters stick-ups, alerts you to raids, and can even be used to destroy evidence if conditioned right. The fact that it charged armed officers tells you how serious that setup was. Once everything settled, police uncovered an operation that showed just how organized the Mob Boss really was. They seized 12.5 grams of cocaine, 8 pounds of high-grade marijuana, digital scales laid out on the counter, measuring cups by the stove for cooking crack, a Smith & Wesson sitting on the couch, and $10,000 cash pulled straight from his pocket. Now we've got to address the heaviest part of Mob Boss's history, because this is where his name really rang out in Memphis. Back in 2004, he became entangled in one of the city's most disturbing murder cases, involving 24-year-old radio DJ Rebecca Glenn. Rebecca was found strangled inside her apartment, and a man named Stanley Andrews was arrested for the killing. But according to police records, Mob Boss was charged as an accessory after the fact to first-degree murder. Here's where it gets complicated. Rumors circulated that Rebecca had been spinning Yo Gotti records on air, while allegedly refusing to give Mob Boss or his Mob Ties artists any rotation. In Memphis at that time, radio play wasn't just exposure, it was leverage. It separated a neighborhood rapper from someone who could actually turn music into serious income. Some claimed the Mob Boss ordered retaliation over the perceived disrespect, though that accusation was never proven in court. Still, those rumors alone showed the level of influence his name carried. What authorities confirmed was that after Rebecca's death,
Mob Boss and a woman named Marquita Thomas were caught using the victim's credit cards and assisting in selling her stolen belongings. That detail alone sent chills through the city. The case shook Memphis because it exposed the uneasy overlap between the music industry and the streets. Investigators revealed unsettling specifics about the night of the murder. Stanley Andrews reportedly slipped past security, wandered the building, knocking on doors, and forced his way into Rebecca's apartment once she answered. He strangled her and then robbed the residence. Andrews' own sister later told Action News 5 that he called her from jail, claiming Rebecca confronted him angrily, and he just snapped. But according to her, he didn't sound like someone overwhelmed by guilt. She said he showed no shock or remorse, none at all. The tragedy also spotlighted how much power radio DJs had in deciding which artists rose and which stayed local, and that influence could make them targets in a tense environment. Mob Boss ultimately faced accessory and first-degree forgery charges, yet he avoided major prison time and received just 1 year of supervised probation. For some, that sentence might have been a warning shot. For Mob Boss, it wasn't enough to pull him out of the life. Let that sink in. This was the climate of violence and crime surrounding Pooh Shiesty's upbringing. So now, let's get into exactly what Charleston White said that set these Memphis OGs off. Because his words didn't just cross a line, they sounded like he was applauding a young black man's downfall.
Pooh Shiesty, man, I don't know who writing his lyrics, the devil? How that boy think of all that shit? As young as he is, man, how that little nigga think all that shit? How he know about all them guns? How he know how to kill the way he kill?
After Pooh Shiesty was handed a 63-month federal sentence, Charleston hopped on live like it was open mic night, cracking jokes about the young man's downfall. He sat there, grinning, treating a prison bid like it was punchline material. Charleston kept saying that before Pooh got locked up, he was out here wilding, shooting up clubs, firing at people, moving recklessly like it was a video game. He compared it to real-life GTA, like the streets were just some console he could reset. Then he pivoted, talking about how prison would force him to follow rules, how he couldn't crash out anymore, and laughing that the white man was about to straighten him out. In one of his most heated rants, Charleston even said that white man don't play. He went on about how they put that boy on what they call a probated sentence, probation, and how a PO would have him walk in a straight line. He kept repeating that once they got Pooh Shiesty under supervision, he'd be tight open, saying there wouldn't be any more problems out of him. Charleston was basically applauding the idea that Pooh would be monitored heavily the minute he touched back down. He doubled down, saying they got that boy on probation and that guys like him need probation officers watching him. He even argued that the best thing the white man could do to a so-called gangster is strap him with a parole or probation officer. But here's what really rubbed people the wrong way. Charleston wasn't just critiquing behavior, he was laughing at the idea that someone once considered dangerous would now be harmless.
Man, that's a dangerous motherfucker.
You used to be tough in the streets. Now look at you tweeting in the metaverse. He clowned him, saying, y'all were out there busting guns, and now that little typing sound in your earbuds hits harder than a trigger. If you understand the culture, you already know that kind of talk about somebody's child, especially one backed by a family with real street history, is playing with fire. Charleston wasn't just joking. He was openly mocking a young man's prison sentence and celebrating the idea of him being under government control. The wildest part was Charleston positioning himself like he had the blueprint for Pooh Shiesty's life, saying prison would fix him and turn him into a better man. That's next level condescending, especially coming from someone who never actually lived the trenches he critiques from a live stream. But listen to this. The moment that really shook things up came when Pooh Shiesty's parents decided they'd heard enough. These weren't bloggers chasing views or influencers hunting viral moments. These were seasoned Memphis figures who had survived decades in one of the city's roughest eras. When they confronted Charleston, there were no ring lights, no live stream countdowns. This was old school, face-to-face energy, where grown folks address real issues directly. No Twitter fingers, no IG captions, just a straight-up conversation about lines that should never have been crossed. Charleston realized real fast this wasn't a comment section debate. He was standing in front of people who actually lived the life he narrates online.
people who endured federal indictments, street conflicts, and the raw reality of Memphis's criminal underworld firsthand. The tone shifted immediately once he felt the weight of who he was dealing with. These parents weren't there to argue about engagement metrics or viral clips. They came to make one thing crystal clear: publicly disrespecting their son, celebrating his incarceration, and joking about his situation would not slide. Period.
And she came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm Pooh Shiesty mama." And I had just said some about that boy. And she said, I ain't like what you said. And you know, I think, I won't say her husband, but Pooh Shiesty daddy represent another faction of Rap-A-Lot, but it's not Rap-A-Lot. When she said that, me and that white boy took off running from her. Yeah, she scared me because she kind of gangster. And I ain't said nothing about it since.
You could read it all over Charleston's body language. He knew instantly he had stepped over a line that wasn't meant to be crossed. The same man who was cracking jokes about Pooh Shiesty's federal sentence switched up real quick once he was standing face to face with the rapper's actual parents. After that encounter, his entire energy shifted. The guy who had been monetizing Pooh Shiesty's situation suddenly turned apologetic and assured them he wouldn't bring up Pooh's name in his content ever again.
Yeah, but I like that. Well, I ain't bullshit. I like that.
What do you like?
That right there, that's real-life humble pie. Going from loud and reckless on live streams to standing in front of somebody's parents promising you'll never say their child's name again hits different. The whole moment exposed the gap between internet bravado and authentic street politics. Charleston built his platform critiquing street culture and lecturing young black men from those environments. But when he came face to face with actual products of that life, people who survived what he only debates online, his tone shifted instantly. At its core, this isn't just about Charleston talking slick or Pooh Shiesty's parents stepping up for their son. It's about respect, family code, and recognizing that some boundaries aren't worth crossing for clicks. Charleston got a first-hand lesson in the difference between performing online and dealing with real-world repercussions. When you're standing in front of individuals with verified street history, your digital persona can't shield you from accountability. Energy travels, and when you put disrespect into the air, especially towards someone's family, it has a way of circling back. For Pooh Shiesty's parents, this wasn't about headlines, it was about protecting their family name while their son couldn't speak for himself. In their world, letting someone publicly violate your family without response reads as weakness, and weakness can cost you everything. The situation also spotlighted the generational layer of street codes. Mob Boss and his wife come from an era where business was handled by a strict code. They believed respect was demonstrated through actions, not viral monologues, and that loyalty to family outweighed fame or fortune. This whole episode also underscores the darker side of internet culture, where people monetize someone else's lowest moments. Charleston was literally earning engagement from jokes about a man's incarceration, flipping pain into profit. The real question now is whether he'll honor his word or slide back into old habits once the spotlight fades. But one thing is clear, he understands now that Pooh Shiesty's family does not play when it comes to respect. This also reminds us that behind every rapper's headline is a family that endured real trials and trauma. When you laugh at someone's legal battle or cheer their downfall, you're not just targeting them, you're disrespecting everyone connected to them. So what do y'all think about Charleston White's run-in with Pooh Shiesty's parents? Did he truly learn, or is this just a temporary pivot until the noise dies down? Drop your thoughts below and tap into our other breakdowns where we unpack the truth behind hip-hop's biggest controversies. The streets were buzzing, and now you've got the full picture of what went down when Charleston White met two Memphis OGs who stand firm on family. That's accountability in real time. And it proves that no matter how massive your online reach becomes, certain lines still come with consequences.